Check 1, 2. Check. Check. Test. Test 1, 2. Wireless mic test. Wireless mic test 1. Check. 9 test. Check 12.
I love it.
So, all right, let's call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our February meeting. We will start off tonight's meeting with a review and approval of the minutes from January. Do we have any discussion or questions on the minutes? Otherwise, it'll be a unanimous consent. Okay, no questions. Let's move on then. So we'll move on to the next section for committee reports. Start first with the Finance and Operations Committee. Who's reporting out?
I
Right.
will.
Mr. Rude?
We spent the time talking about capital projects for next year's budget. That concludes the report.
All right. Nice and succinct. Thank you. Personnel and Policy Committee?
We reviewed a number of policies that were first and second reads this evening. We'd like to recommend a couple of actions for the board. Not going to go through them all unless everyone needs me to, but they are all listed on the agenda. We're recommending that the first read policies, we had no changes to those whatsoever, and they were just a review. We'd like to try to move those to second read today, so we can just vote on those and move them, move them along, because we don't think there's any changes required. They were all the first reads. Also, we recommend that for the second review policies, 306, 307, and 818, that those are all, we recommend those all for approval tonight. They're all second reads. We would like to table policy 006, which is, it's on there as tabled right now. It's a second read, but we do want to have confirm that those are tabled for around board meetings and around principles of governance and leadership. And we would like both of those policies to be sent to all the board members to review. And as we said at the last meeting, we'd like to have a discussion maybe on a board retreat so we can sort of go through those in more detail as a group. And we'd also just like to make the request as well that the board receive the draft social media policy that was circulated, I think, late last year. Again, the whole board. Again, so that the board has a chance to review that. We just want to make sure we call special attention to those and that we really discuss those because we think they're really important to make sure that we've all sort of aligned on the details in those policies. So those three policies.
And those three being 006, 011, and the social media. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 006, 011, and then I can't remember what the social media one was. Yeah. But we would like to have more of a detailed discussion with the entire board around those. So we want everyone to have a chance to really look at them. And there was one policy that was added for second read around procurement, which had it was added with a small update, a deletion of a line around small purchases via RFP. So we think that that is fine to go to second read as well. Just wanted to note that we did discuss that policy as well. Yes. Yeah, it's on a second read on the, yeah, we have no concern with the changes on that, so we recommend we move that to second read as well.
Yeah, basically.
That's okay.
Through L.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smart. Curriculum instruction technology, Mr. Cherzanowski.
Yes, we had an update from Mr. Nichols today on the IT. He's replacing all the faculty laptops this summer. He has pricing for devices. It's pretty similar to last year, so there's really no changes there. Security systems, the new security systems that we have are doing very well. There's no complaints there. Just a couple glitches with the software, but they're really responsive when they need to fix that. CKLA quote, which is Core Knowledge Language Arts, which is about $326,041.48 quote. It is for 6 years. It does include the PD. Mr. Toscano's asking for that to be approved tonight by the board. Our comprehensive plan for 2024, 2027, it is virtually unchanged from our last plan that we had. There's just a couple changes, one of them being structured literacy training for our staff. Staffing for this upcoming year, next school year, we're hoping to interview in March. There are lots of positions to fill. And they're also going to be going to some job fairs, Mr. Stage and Mr. Toscano, to recruit some staff members at some colleges such as Penn State. And we recently just had a parenting class last night that were offered to families, and we're hoping more families take that opportunity to go to those parenting classes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cherzanowski.
I have a question on the new reading curriculum,
Curriculum.
326,000, right?
Yes.
326,041. And that's divided over 6 years. And do we know that this program works? Have we talked to other school districts?
Yeah, we visited another school district, 4 times.
Okay.
At even, many of the schools in our IB direction holiday. In the state, we get that out.
What is it doing that we are not currently doing?
So one of the biggest components of this, that we're lacking right now is the title, the background knowledge. It's really a lot of vocabulary, background knowledge. It's really rather than being really inside the reading, there's something that we call Scarborough. Sometimes, and talk about how we really, the awareness, the fine structure, fluency, the knowledge part of it. We have, we need to define,
So it's increasing their vocabulary and, okay.
Our teachers have done a ton of work, on the fun side of things, which should help them as we implement this, they're going to be better because they understand more than like, if it was going to see if they haven't done that work previously, so that's actually big for us, in my opinion.
And spelling tests won't, because we don't do spelling tests, right? So having a spelling test with a definition won't.
Like getting the words on Monday, opening up 5 things on Tuesday, putting things on, that doesn't happen.
Okay.
But But yeah, there'll be, it's much more complicated.
We have some teachers right now utilizing this, correct? Piloting it?
We have a teacher every pilot.
What would our learning curve be for the teachers?
As with any women, again, on the stuff to that, we come to look at, the students are here.
Mhm.
You know, maybe there, so less than that you would expect if we hadn't done all that. We were looking at when like because of the investment like this. In my opinion, so we'll be, if we get the school year, the next school year, and maybe throughout. Not only this coming school year, but then moving forward, to make those.
Okay, and then just one other, is there any negative effect if it's K through 5 of our kids who are in the middle, switching now from one to the other?
Negative effects, no.
Okay.
Where, when we switched to like, math last year.
Okay,
Thinking math is more rigorous. So for example, starting math in this way.
right.
Items, reports, Mr. Stage, for your update.
Thank you very much. I would like to do some building reports. So I'd like to share some information coming out of all of our buildings. We'll start with Harlan Row first. We'll be out in our community on Wednesday doing community service. Some of the things they're doing is they're going to be delivering some Valentine's Day's cards and making some paper necklaces for the local nursing homes. First Five is still going strong, and they're getting ready to hold their 4th school-wide circle during 5th period. That's going to take place this Thursday. A big shout out to all of our students at the middle school. They raised over $1,000 during our Penny Wars last week. Those Penny Wars were to benefit one of their own students who's recently been diagnosed with bone cancer. On their report is that the 6th grade teachers worked at concession stand last week at a basketball game. It was actually senior night, and this allowed the parents to participate and not have to worry about the concession stand. Actually, I'd also like to throw in, I saw lots of our teachers volunteering for both boys, girls basketball, wrestling, swimming in the concession stand so that those sort of things could happen. Kudos to 6th grade, but it also happened. I think I saw, kindergarten teachers, high school science teachers, a lot of people helping out. English, everybody was doing it. And it was kudos to our faculty for doing that. This upcoming, the week of February 20th, the middle school is celebrating FFA Spirit Week. They're going to be doing lots of activities, including a pep rally with Ag Olympics, FFA trivia. There's going to be a petting zoo, and they're going to wrap it up with a blue and gold day in celebration of FFA. At the high school, winter sports are starting to wind down, and districts and tournaments are on the horizon. This week, we host North Sectionals here. So you'll be if you're driving around the campus, note it, and you can't find a place to park, it's probably because of wrestling. The boys and girls basketball teams are finishing up their seasons. I think they're going to be on the road for their district playoff games. And we'll have more information. I think the girls will end up playing Central Columbia, and there's potential the boys will have to play Danville, and both of those will be away. The swim team had a phenomenal season. Looks like they not to say they wrapped up the NTL, but they did. They're going to be off to districts on February 26th and 7th. A lot of really good swimmers, and might see some of them move through districts. We have a good shot at doing well as a team as well. So that's good to know. The high school is having FFA week. Soon it's going to be a teacher appreciation breakfast, drive your tractor to school day, one of my favorites, balloon gold day. And they're going to wrap up with a petting zoo on Friday. They recently hosted the Northeastern Pennsylvania Industrial Resource Center Manufacturing Dream Team. Students were able to meet with these experts and professionals and get real world answers about the front lines of manufacturing, which is really awesome. In the final week of February, members from the Gastroenterology and Pulmonary Fellowship will be meeting with our 9th and 10th grade students, and their topic is going to be sharing the dangers associated with vaping. So I think a lot of things happening at the high school. Which school did I miss? SRU. I forgot SRU. I didn't mean to do that. I moved my paper. SRU just finished up taking their last grade level students roller skating at the Ulster Rec Center. The PTG organized that. The entire thing where 3rd and 5th graders were able to go skating after school. A big shout out to all the volunteers, secretaries, and Linda Harkness for making sure that all happened without any hitches. They're prepping for their upcoming career day, which is on February 23rd. They have 23 presenters from around the area. Mrs. Brown and Lindsay Coleman have been working really hard to make that a meaningful experience for students. Our student council collected nearly 700 non-perishable items to donate to CHOP as part of a school-wide kindness act that they adopted during the Great Kindness Challenge. And the title team is preparing for Read Across America Week that is just a few short weeks away. And our student council will be helping to organize a Spirit Week and reading challenge. So a lot of great things that are going on. We didn't talk about Lynch, but that's because I have some special guests here tonight. I know one is Brooklyn Watkins because she came in confident. She's the first one. She knows what's up. I told her how to do things, but Mrs. Webster's also here, one of our teachers at Lynch Buston, and she brought a posse with her. So, and I don't know all the names, so hopefully we can get to all the names by the time we get up here. So Mrs. Webster, if you want to come up and bring your team, that'd be great. And talk to us about what's happening at Lynch. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Connie Webster. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Lynch. I have with me our Lynch Buston Student Council officers. I'm going to let these ladies introduce themselves and tell you what office they hold. Who's first? Hope they're going to fight over this.
I'm Harper Lichty and I'm the treasurer. I'm Brooklyn Watkins and I'm the president. I'm Anna Schuler and I'm the vice president. I'm Amelia Archibald and I'm the secretary.
They wanted to talk to you about some of the things that we've been doing at Lynch Buston. And I left it up to them. We had a little luncheon today. We had a meeting over lunch and they have some things they want to present to you.
With the fundraisers that we're doing, we're using the money for the student council shirts and to help field day. Towards the beginning of student council, we held elections for the officers. Our student council is for 4th and 5th grade only and has about 40 members. On March 1st, Title I is hosting a Reading Family Fun Night. Some of the activities we've done was October, Kindness Chain, and Super Bowl set. For more activities, we've done Coins for Chris, Kids Night Out, which is March 8th, and Homecoming Parade.
Mrs. Webster.
Share their ideas. Some of their ideas are grand. We almost have to reel them in at times because they want to bring laser tag and escape rooms. And so they're really, really clever children, and it's fun to watch them grow and work together.
Let's see our students here talking about the great things happening in their buildings, because these young leaders are definitely building the sense of culture and community that a school needs to thrive and be successful. And I appreciate them for being here tonight.
Yeah,
So
thank you, Mr. Stage, for organizing that.
Yep.
Great job. Thank you all.
I would like to conclude my report.
All right, thank
Thank you.
you. So we have nobody for Blast IU 17, so we'll move on to the Career Center. Mrs. Cooper.
Meeting is this Thursday. I reported out last meeting from last month.
All right, thank you. PSBA, Mrs. Minnick.
About 12 minutes of reports, guys.
Can make it 11.
Yep.
Just for that, I'll make it 13. I'm just in front of you, you'll see the State of Education 2024 report from PSVA. This is, this serves as kind of like, this will have your key indicators on public school performance, standardized test scores, school finances. It's all, they gathered all together. So here's a report for 2024. I'm not going to go through it all. If you want to read it, it's all here. You didn't get it? Why do I have it? They have it. Here. Oh, well, I'll pass it around. If you want it, I have one. Yeah, so, but that's what it is. It's gonna go over. When his budget comes out, then these are the indicators, so. How he's gonna spend the money. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Minnick. We'll move on to solicitors reports. Mr. Barrett.
I have two items, one of current litigation and one of possible litigation, which I will update the board in executive session after this meeting. No action will be taken or requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Next, we'll move on to financial business. Do we have a motion and a second to bring that for discussion and vote?
So moved.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Owen,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to just kind of overview some of the bigger items on that.
Thank you.
So basically you'll see the general bills that you typically see month in and month out. Nothing significant that you will see on those. You will see that we have our quarterly payment to the Career Center, that we always make to fund the Career Center. But what I will draw a notice to is that there's one item on here, the Blast IU 17 proposed general operations budget and the general operations budget resolution. So as a member of the IU 17, it is the board's responsibility to review the general operations budget and vote. Each vote counts singular by each board member and will be tallied. And I think Christine has the right document to use. And I think that will probably be the most significant thing on that listing for you guys.
And just on the topic of the Blast budget, just for clarification, we pay to Blast for services that we use.
Yeah.
There's not any like sort of overall shared cost, or we only pay for what we decided to.
Yep,
use.
correct. That's an excellent question. We are a pay for service IU. So that portion of that budget, we don't actually have to forfeit any money to them unless we pay for services. And the services that we do contract through the IU, we do curriculum services, professional development, technology. So type like our internet we'll go through them. And we do some assistive technology services and things like PT or OT when we can't provide them with our staff. So that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Stage. Any further questions or discussion on the financial business? So vote on F and G separate from, okay,
They can be together, but.
but yeah, from separate, so we'll do A through E and then F and G. Okay,
Mr. Stage. In the general checks, we bought something at Cabinet Works.
That is
Why the
actually,
large item?
yeah, no, actually, that was a reassessment refund. So they reassessed their property and we had to refund that.
Okay.
You'll see two of those in there. One's an Esquire, one's a Cabinet Works.
Okay.
I can't tell you the full name. I apologize.
they always. Okay, any other questions or discussion on financial business? Okay, so let's do a vote first on lines A through E. Christine, please.
Mr. Chairosnowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
and Mrs. Smart.
Yes.
Okay, next we'll do a vote on F and G.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
No.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
No.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
and Mr. Chairosnowski.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next we'll move on to personnel items. Do we have a motion and a second to bring this to the table for discussion and vote?
So moved.
Mr. Elmer, Mr. Owen, if it,
No, a second.
oh, we didn't get a second? All right,
Second.
All right, Mr. Stage, over to you now.
appreciate that. Thank you. Just a quick personnel, just want to make a quick comment about that. I want to sincerely thank Vicki Rhodes. She's retiring. She's been a staple at SRU for decades. We appreciate all the things that she has done. The other thing is we have a couple resignations. One that's probably matters to the district, Mr. Toscano and Mrs. Toscano are both resigning effective at the end of June 30th. And just as a note, Mr. Toscano, we appreciate it. You've been here since 1 year longer than me. It feels like decades longer, I'm sure. And you've sat in a lot of seats. So thank you. And you will be missed. Appreciate you. And there are some contracts, some athletic contracts, some athletic volunteers. We do have a support staff resignation in the autistic support classroom. Other than that, we do have some general hires. Other than that, there's not much to note.
Thank you, Mr. Stage. Any questions on any of the personnel items?
So I have a question on Mrs. Rhodes. Are we gonna try and have some hire someone prior to her leaving?
Yeah.
I mean, she's like,
Absolutely. And also, not only,
write it down.
I think,
Create a manual.
I don't know if you see this, but Mr. Collum gets a little bit more pale every time we talk about it. And, but we are going to try to get someone in place well enough to get cross-trained and also offer a couple days over the summer for her to come in and do some sharing of that knowledge and help that person get ready. Because the summertime for the 12-month secretaries is a really busy time in terms of getting the buildings ready with orders, deliveries, getting things set up. There's a lot of paperwork involved too. So we're going to make sure she's available to help us out. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, let's go for a vote. Christine?
Mr. Frisbee,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Chairosnowski.
Yes.
And Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Okay, next we have contracts and agreements. Do we have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second. Okay, so we have one contract. It's for the strength and conditioning coaching agreement. Should be in the pack everyone had prior to the meeting.
Yep.
Anything, Mr. Sage, you'd like to add on that?
Simply that we've had a different company do this in the past. They did their job. They did not want to continue. We were unable to fill this up until now. I do want to point out, that this agreement is not for an entire year. So I attached a memo and I want to make sure that the points are made that it'll be prorated. The amount will be prorated starting at the time of a board approval till June 30th, and it will end on June 30th. So we can revisit that later on. So it's kind of a test the waters and see how it goes kind of thing.
Because in the past, we have not had a lot of students. or
Participation is
I
always
guess that's what I'm
something.
asking. If this is approved, I'd like, monitoring of who comes, how often, for what sports. Just so we can keep track of that and see if it's viable for the next.
Can ask Mr. Clark and Mr. Sullivan maybe to keep a sign-in sheet or a sign-in log to kind of keep track of that, because I think that'd be a very important piece of data to measure.
So.
So this money has already been budgeted. This is there already. So.
Yes, that's correct.
I just want to make sure. My concern is the buy-in from coaches and students. In the past, there hasn't really been a lot of participation. So I don't want to keep spending on money on a program where we can take that money and put it towards a program where we can reach more students. So that's my concern, and I want to make sure that we keep track of those numbers so we give it a fair shot.
I agree.
Because if, our summer rec program was over last year,
Right.
over the numbers, and
Yeah,
we went
and-
over budget, but we served more kids, more students in that program.
It certainly becomes a math equation when you talk about cost per pupil, and it has to make sense.
Yes.
So, yep, we agree. I agree.
I mean, I want to see our student athletes, become stronger and, conditioned. But if they're not going to participate and we're not going to have the numbers to sustain that program, then we will take that money and move it somewhere else where we can reach more students and more families. That's my opinion.
Any additional questions or conversations on contracts? Okay, let's go to vote. Christine?
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Terrell
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
and Mr. Frisbee.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move to policies. Do we have a motion and a second to bring this up for discussion and vote?
So moved.
Second.
So per the committee readout, just an update, we are not going to vote on A and B. Those will be tabled until the board can do further review. Suggested that we proceed with a vote on C through F, which are currently already listed as second read. And I believe the recommendation was also that we move G and L to second read, so we're voting on those tonight. Does that require any type of formal amendment to the agenda to change those to second read?
I would defer to Mr. Barrett.
Mr.
That's
Barrett.
also on that one.
For,
Yes, you would have to move to amend policy require first and second reading. Just approve them.
okay, so we need a motion and a second to change those to second read, and then, okay. Okay, so do we have a motion and a second to change lines G through L to second read and update the agenda to reflect that?
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay,
There we go.
thank you. Does that require a vote? Okay. Christine? So this is just a vote on moving G through L to second read.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Terrence.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee,
Yes.
and Mr. Johnson.
Yes. Okay, so now next will be the vote on C through L, approving all of those as second reads.
So moved.
Second.
Where we do it?
We did that at the very beginning, yeah, sort of. Yep. Okay, so Christine, over to you for the vote on C through L, second.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Terrence,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Minnick.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Caught up. All right, next curriculum and instruction. So we have three items here. The 24 through 27 comprehensive plan for the school district, the core knowledge, language, arts, reading resource, which was a discussion earlier when we were doing the committee readouts, and then the Harlan Row Middle School FFA ACES Leadership Conference trip request. Any further questions or conversations? And Mrs. Cooper, back to you. This is right to cut you off earlier.
I'll make a
Any further
motion.
Questions on that one? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll make a
and
motion.
second to bring it up.
Yep.
A motion?
Here.
Second.
I'm sorry, back to you, Mrs. Cooper, from earlier. Was there any further questions you had when we were talking about this earlier? That we didn't get to in earlier conversation?
No, I think I got my last question in inappropriately. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
So she texted. Yeah, right. No, this is a great time to talk about. First of all, thank you, Mr. Scano, for completing our comprehensive plan. As much as we know this is a compliance document that the state asks us for, here's a document that we try to use, and you'll see some of our focus is increasing attendance, which has been a big issue for us throughout the district, and it's been a focus of a lot of our discussions and will probably remain to be so in the future. CKLA, the comment I want to make on that, or just to put into your mind, the resource is not the curriculum, but it definitely helps guide the curriculum to meet the standards. And we haven't really addressed a consistent resource for ELA teachers since before I became the director of educational programming in 2013. So they've been using the same resource with supplemental materials since that period of time. So it's timely that we are addressing it. The state is moving to a science of reading approach. This will help us adopt that approach. And I appreciate the fact that we may be ahead of a curve rather than catching up to a curve. So those are just my comments about that. The price is actually pretty decent. We got almost a $175,000 discount for going 6 years, although I think the sticker shock for you guys is that it's pricey, but we anticipated it being significantly more. So I guess it's all in how you present the data. Yeah, maybe 15. Yeah.
But comparable to math, it's really not that expensive, correct? The math
Correct.
was,
If you compare it to our math curriculum, it's not overwhelming. And the thing is, it comes with a variety of resources. It's a big variety.
I just hope we have the teacher buy-in.
Well, I think that we've really tried to make that happen, and not every single teacher is going to buy into it, but we did give lots of teachers opportunities to see it, touch it, and see it in action. We did have groups of teachers visit some school districts. I don't want to name them.
Yeah, I think it's a great level.
Just so they have the support, because they've been, okay.
Mary Ellen and Jordan, you both like the program and, okay.
So will the schedule have to change then for both of our elementaries when you said fit into the school day?
No,
How do they block looks?
yes. And the thing that I do enjoy is that, you know, between John, Mary Ellen and Jordan, they have kind of sat down and kind of already mapped out how that can make that work for both buildings and in a consistent manner. So
So both buildings will be teaching the same thing.
that's always been our goal. I'm just thankful that we dedicate some time to actually have a discussion about something like curriculum. It's really important. So I appreciate the questions very much. Yeah. I do.
Focus. Yeah, that's good.
Things that were.
Very relevant.
It's a big change. It's gonna
Mhm.
be a big change. There's no doubt about that. And we just like, I think Kathy Jo made a good point. Just make sure we're all ready for it. Like,
But I appreciate all the.
Great.
Because there's a lot of.
Mhm. Okay, any further questions on any of the three items within curriculum instruction? Okay, let's go for a vote. Christine?
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Charles-Nelski,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
and Mr. Owen.
Yes. Okay, next we will move to transportation. Do we have a motion and a second to bring that to the table?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. So we have two items here, an updated driver list and a bus upgrade request from Leonard's.
per board policy, school boards have, our school board has to approve a change when a contractor uses a different bus. Mr. Leonard's upgrading his bus. And the reason that is it changes the reimbursement formula. Wow.
Mr. Stage, is this the very first alternative fuel bus that we've had in the district?
Mr. Johnson, I wish I could say with 100% certainty, although I don't know, but I think this is the first time it's come across our desk or on our agenda where we're using an alternative fuel vehicle, it being propane.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We don't have any electric buses, do we?
Nope. Jason wants them though.
No.
No comment.
Never gonna stop.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's go to vote. Christine?
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Charles-Nelski,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
and Mr. Rude.
Yes.
Okay, we have nothing for buildings and grounds this time, nothing in other. I don't believe we have any recommended changes to future board action items based on what we discussed here. Next, visitor comments. Do we have any visitor comments? Looks like a no. Next section is just board communication items. So this does not require a vote, but it's just here for the awareness of the board. Some personnel transfers, the school calendar for the Career Center for next school year. Ballots for election of the IU 17 directors. The board members should have a yellow paper in front of you that you've all been asked to fill out. That's for the election of the IU 17 directors. So if you could do that, and Christine, you want to collect those tonight, right? So please get those to Christine before we leave tonight. We have the Sunday facility use requests and field trip requests. On the next section, board discussion items. Do we have any additional board discussion items?
I'd like to bring up one.
Yes, Mr. Johnson?
So as we know, I am new to the board, so there are some questions that I might have. One of the questions I'd like to know for Athens School District is what is the enrollment on the charter side for the school? And what is it, has it gone up or down? Say, let's go back 5 years. I'd also like to know the reasoning. I mean, I know that probably by law, we do not have to ask that. I mean, as long as they're getting the school education. But as a district, I think it's important for us to gather as much information as we can to find out why is it that people are leaving.
If you give me just this, I think obviously the enrollment for cyber charter schools has increased over the last 5 years. COVID did not do any favors to us as families moved to a fully online format. As the reasoning, there's a variety of reasons. Some are very legitimate reasons. They make personal choices. It's a family choice, obviously, and we can ask. They can give us an answer. We find oftentimes, and John works closely with our WOLA coordinator, Mrs. Cherasnowski, and if she was here, she could probably share as well. A lot of those reasoning comes with, just they're against the accountability and expectations that we have for students at some point in time. So we have some of that. We sometimes gain those students back. Sometimes they see the luxury of not being able to get up in the morning and do it on their own schedule. But I would say we're currently sitting between 59 and 70 students, but I'll get you an exact number before the next board meeting, and I'll give you a 5-year trend to show you where we're at. Our costs have increased exponentially over those 5 years, partially because of the increase in students, but also in the increase of the charter school tuition that's being charged as we continually increase our fee for tuition as a district, which is not set by us. But let me take some time. I don't want to give you any definitive answers. Let me do some research and get that to you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I think, in ending, I think the best education is here, right? I mean, and that's, as a district, I think that would be, our standpoint on that. But it would be nice to have some information to help realize and find out why this is happening. Just to get them back to the school. Is there a reasoning? I know that we might not be able, but it is good to know that for us to make it better if we can.
Sure. I do know that Mrs. Cherasnowski, whenever she gets a student comes across her desk that's either going into WOLA or says that they might be transitioning into a cyber charter school, we do try to set up meetings, and John's part of those meetings to convince them and convince them to choose our online platform so that we can at least have a hand in what they're learning. So when they leave the district, we're no longer in control of what they're learning, how they're learning it, or what progress they're making. And to be honest, well, yeah, we pay the bill. And the idea of a free education is a misnomer, right? The charge to the district can be anywhere up to $27,000 per student. And certainly, our local citizens pay the tax dollars that funds our district. But, one student probably doesn't equal that same family's tax dollars equal for dollar. So there's something to be considered there. So we do try to drill down when we meet with families, why they're leaving. Linda Harkness also does that too, but sometimes it's simply, we don't even get a chance to communicate with them. We simply get a request for transcripts from a cyber charter school and they're gone. So, but I appreciate the question. And I think it's something that I can gather some information and maybe help us and help educate you too.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Stage, on that point.
Yes, ma'am.
I feel like I remember that we used to have our enrollment numbers and, month by month in
Yes.
the board minutes, or in the board agenda. And so I just wondered if that's going to be something we can continue having, because I find that helpful because it shows some trends.
Okay.
And we can look at, the data.
Okay, I was uncertain about that. However, I will guarantee that you have that at the next work session on March 12th. You're very
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay. Well, just overall, it used to be in the board communication items.
Yeah.
I never.
Well, it used to be.
Any further board discussion items? Okay, so our next meetings, our next work session is Tuesday, March 12th, actually at the Career Center, 7 p.m. So let's hope for good weather so we can make that happen. That'll be followed by a regular session the following Tuesday, March 19th at SRU at 7 PM as well. We will have an executive session following the meeting for legal and personnel.
I do have one question about
Oh, sorry,
the
John.
future meetings. Yeah.
Yep.
Are we doing any committees then
No.
at all that month?
But we're
Okay.
taking a tour of the facility.
Okay.
We're gonna, and then, the food service students are gonna, provide, the culinary students are providing us dinner, and then we're gonna have.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President, add to that executive session and no action.
Yep, no actions. Yep, no actions taken on legal and personnel matters. So with that, do we have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Second.
All right, thank you all.